Hi, everybody. I'm Caryn Kopp, Chief Door Opener at Kopp Consulting, where we are best known for the door opener service. And that's where we have our senior level door openers get our clients in the door with their important prospects. So companies will come to us when they're looking to get in at the C-suite, SVP, VP, director level of almost any kind of company. People will come to us when it's difficult, where there's maybe a competitive situation that's going on, or an incumbent that's really hard to unseat, or where it's difficult to explain a new product or a new service to a high-level decision maker. So there are 5 planks of door opening success that I talk about, one of them being the right target, one, the right message, a sales message. The third one is the right answers for objections. The fourth one is the right door opener doing the work. And the fifth one is the right door opener is doing the right execution. And that is what gets these doors open. Well, the second plank is the right sales message. We have 2 trademarks in sales messaging, the moment of yes and the Kopp method of sales messaging. Today, I'm going to go into some specifics about the Kopp method of sales messaging and what you can do to use this method in order to render your competition irrelevant. So what is the gap method anyway, right? So the whole idea of gap is to create a gap between all of your competitors. They're all here on this level playing field. And then here's you above all of them. And the difference between everybody else and you is value. Most people, when they're thinking of messaging of any kind, they talk about wanting to be different. And I'm here to tell you that nobody cares why you're different. Nobody cares. You can use that in marketing. But in sales, they only care why you are of more value to them. And the companies and the people who can articulate that in language that's relevant and compelling to the person who hears it win. The person with the best words wins. I've seen it over and over and over again. Even companies who may not deserve to win will win the business if they have the best words. So if you deserve to win, it's really important that you are deliberate in your word choice, so that your prospects understand why it's important they meet with you now. Why is it important they take next steps with you now? Why is it important that they select you? And one of the best ways to communicate that is through the Kopp method of sales messaging. So if you think about this, it's going to be different for each person who hears it. It will be different depending on where you are in your relationship with a prospect. Is this somebody new, you just met them? Or is it somebody who you've already provided a proposal for, and now you're following up with the proposal? Does this person have an objection? All of this is important in the consideration of how you fill in these blanks. So I have an example that might be helpful for you. It comes from the promotional products industry, and I'll share it with you, and then I'm going to break it down and tell you why it's so important. It has to do with customer service, and people like to say, oh, we give great customer service, but who cares about that? If you don't give good customer service, go home. You don't even deserve to be in business if you don't have good customer service. So I said to them, what is it about your customer service that creates a gap between all of your competitors and you? And here's what they said. Anyone can say they provide great customer service, but not everyone can deliver on their promise. For example, we once chartered a plane at our expense to transport supplies on time. That's how we provide our customer service. So let's break this down. The first sentence, anyone can say they provide great customer service. And that's true, anybody can. But the second one, the second sentence, but not everyone can deliver on the promise. The important part about the second sentence is that whoever hears it is going to nod along in agreement. Well, it's very common in some cases, through no fault of the company, through no fault of their own, just circumstance, they didn't deliver on their promise. So a lot of people can nod along with this second sentence when it comes to this particular industry. And so as long as the person who hears it is nodding along, then you go for the next sentence, which is, for example. When you choose these sentences, you want to put them in plain English. Be careful to avoid buzzwords, because what is very meaningful to you may not be meaningful to the person who hears it. I remember a long time ago, I was doing some sales messaging with a wealth manager, and he talked about how they were the quarterback. Well, I don't follow football. And so as he was using this particular example, it was meaningless to me because it was a disconnect. You want to make sure that the language that you use is clear to the person who hears it, not necessarily to you, and that it doesn't cause a disconnect. Then take a look at every single word. Every word should work hard for you when it comes to this particular method of sales messaging. For example, you can say, I could show you how this works, or you could say, I could prove how this works. If you look at the difference between the word show and prove, there's an intensity difference. We're looking for the words to work as hard for you as they can. Once you have all the words working hard for you, all the words are clear, none of them will create a disconnect. You don't have jargon, you're using plain English. Then it's time to reduce the number of words that you have. Many times when people go through this exercise, they'll have sentence after sentence after sentence. This is meant to be the spoken word, although you can use it in an email. But as the spoken word, can you get this out? Or will it take you too many sentences to get this out and you'll trip over your words? You want to make sure that this is going to be as short as possible and that it lands the way it's supposed to land. Once you have this, then it's time to, I'm going to just move this back, reduce the number of words on the page. Once you have this and you're comfortable that if you're wearing your prospect's hat, that all these words are going to land for you and that they are going to nod along in agreement, it's crystal clear, then it's time to take it for a test drive. Don't test it out with your family and don't test it out with your friends. Test it out with somebody who's similar to the person that you want to hear this message and see if it lands for them. What I've seen happen is that people will, it's all of a sudden like glaze clears off their face and they're like, oh, you're right. In fact, the very first time that I unveiled this method, it was in front of 300 people. And that's kind of intimidating to be in front of 300 people and introduce something entirely new. Who knows how that's going to work out? It was with a group of people where 75% of them were smaller companies looking to get into big pharma and 25% of big pharma decision makers. And I had everybody work on their gap message. And then I asked for a volunteer to stand up and read his or her gap message. One person stood up to read the gap message. And when he did this, there was a person from a very big pharma company at the next table who stood up and asked for his card. I couldn't have planned that to happen, but here's what happened next. At the end of the program, somebody I knew who was sitting at the table with him told me that when they first sat down, everybody went around the table and said what they did. And when he did that before the gap message, she didn't really understand what he did. It didn't land for her at all. But then after he put his message in the gap framework, she completely understood what he did, and so did the person at the next table. Try this out. It is very powerful, and it helps you get to superior sales messaging, which is one of the things that we're known for, in a very short period of time. If you would like me to review your gap message and give you some comments, you can send it to me through my website, which is at the bottom of the page, koppconsultingusa.com, KOPP, consultingusa.com. And I'm looking forward to seeing your gap message. Have a great day.